All right, let's jump right in. For all of human history, war has been, well, human. But we're standing on the edge of something completely new, a change that could rewrite the rules of the battlefield forever. We're talking about autonomous weapons, basically the automated soldier.
And this leads to the one question that hangs over this entire topic, and believe me, it is not science fiction anymore. Can a machine decide who lives and who dies? More importantly, should we let it?
So what exactly is an autonomous weapon system, or AWS? Look, this isn't just some remote-controlled drone. The key phrase here, the part that changes everything, is without direct human control. We're talking about a machine that makes that final, lethal decision all on its own.
Now you might be asking, why would anyone even build these things? To get that, we have to look at the promise side of the coin. The argument goes that these machines could wage war with a kind of perfection that humans, well, we just can't match.
And this chart, it shows you the first huge advantage in a nutshell. Speed. A human soldier, it takes them hundreds of milliseconds to see a threat and react. An autonomous system, it can do it in a handful of milliseconds. In a modern firefight, that tiny gap isn't just an advantage, it's everything. It's life or death.
Okay, so the case for the autonomous soldier really rests on these four big ideas. First, like we just saw, is machine speed. Second is the idea of incredible precision, maybe even better than a human, which could mean less collateral damage. Third, and this is a huge selling point, is protecting our own soldiers by sending machines into the line of fire. And finally, there's this idea of perfect discipline, a machine that follows the rules of engagement to the letter, every single time, no exceptions. And this quote really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? Think about a human soldier. They get tired, they get scared, they get angry, and those emotions, as human as they are, can lead to awful mistakes. The theory is that an AWS has none of that baggage. It's just cold, hard logic, programmed to follow orders perfectly.
Okay, but that clean, perfect theory, it's about to crash head-on into the messy, unpredictable reality of a real war zone. So now, let's talk about the peril, which you can sum up with one classic military phrase: the fog of war.
And this is where things get really complicated. I mean, a battlefield isn't a spreadsheet. It's chaotic. It's unpredictable. It's full of people doing unexpected things. So the real question is, can an algorithm, no matter how smart, actually understand the context of what's happening?
Yeah, this lays it all out, right? On one side, you have the promise, a machine that follows the rules, is super accurate and totally logical. But on the other side, you have the harsh reality. That same machine can't understand why something is happening. It gets confused by chaos, and, this is a big one, it can be tricked by a clever enemy.
All right, let's make this real for a second. We're not just talking about an AWS spotting a tank in an open field. More and more, these systems are meant to work in cities, in complex areas, where they have to make these impossible judgments about people in a split second.
I mean, just try to imagine what the machine sees. Is that a farmer with a shovel or an insurgent with a weapon? Is that person surrendering for real or is it a trap? Is that a bomb being planted or just someone fixing their car? A human has a hard time with these calls. For an algorithm that's just looking for patterns, one mistake could be an absolute disaster.
And you have to remember, these things aren't operating in a vacuum. The other side gets a vote, right? They aren't just going to let this machine do its thing. They're going to try to jam it, to spoof it by feeding it fake data, to trick it with decoys. They could even figure out biases in its programming and use the machine's own logic against it. These things are not invincible.
Which brings us to maybe the toughest problem of them all. This one goes way beyond just the technology. It's about law, it's about ethics. We're talking about the accountability gap.
It's a simple, chilling question, and there's no good answer. If an autonomous weapon makes a mistake, if it unlawfully kills someone, who's to blame? This is what people call the accountability gap. I mean, let's follow the chain. Do you blame the machine? Of course not, it's just code and metal. Okay, what about the commander who sent it out? Well, they can say, I didn't pull the trigger. The programmer? They couldn't possibly have predicted every single scenario in a war zone. The manufacturer? They just built the product. See what happens? Responsibility just evaporates. It disappears into this gap, and nobody is held accountable for a wrongful death.
And that leads to an even broader and, frankly, more chilling possibility. This quote nails it: the dehumanization of war. If you can fight a war by sending machines, and you don't have to worry about your own soldiers coming home in coffins, does that make it easier to start a war in the first place? Does conflict become a cleaner, less psychologically costly option?
So where do we go from here? Look, the technology is moving forward, that's a fact. But whether we actually use it, That's not a technical question. That is and must be a final human decision.
This table really lays out the whole dilemma, doesn't it? It's a double-edged sword. For every single promise, there's a serious challenge right on the other side. The promise of speed, it comes with the risk of cutting humans out of the loop entirely. The promise of precision, it's haunted by the risk of a catastrophic error. And the promise of unbiased judgment crashes against the fact that a machine has no real ethical compass. It creates this legal and moral vacuum.
And really, that's what it all comes down to. The tech itself, it might just be inevitable. But the choice to hand over the power of life and death to that technology, that is not. That is still our choice to make. And it's a choice we have to make with our eyes wide open to both the incredible promise and the profound peril.